All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Full Circle. It's another week of the OS World Cup, another week of recaps and the predictions to follow. I'm Dio. I'm here alongside this one guy and iFlame for the first segment here with the not quarterfinals recap. I'll go ahead and fix that shortly. The semifinals recap, because that's what round was last week, not the quarterfinals.
There are a lot of good matches this weekend. There were some bangers, some tiebreakers.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Go right ahead. I'm fixing the bottom bar. You go.
he's fixing the bottom. Yeah, no, I was. I think we kind of got what we expected and then some with quite a few of these matches. So it was a pretty good weekend for sure. There was like a little bit of disappointment perhaps in a couple of spots, but some very very good matches that more than made up for any that slightly failed to meet the bar. That we will be discussing once Dio fixes the quarterfinals, semifinals thing.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so a lot of the matches last week, I think kind of half of the losers bracket were pretty solid matches, and then of course, the winners bracket, also half the winners bracket was very good matches, and some of the other matches that we had, unfortunately, were not quite as good last weekend. But there were quite a few bangers. We'll start off in the losers bracket with the first of those solid matches. And I think that's kind of what we expected, right? We expected some of these matches to be pretty close, some of them to be not so close, and I think we got more close matches than we expected. The half of the losers bracket that was not so interesting, we'll go over relatively quickly. That was Russia versus Poland. Russia 6-1 to Poland, knocked them out. There were a couple close maps, but ultimately a pretty one-sided affair. Congrats to Russia for knocking out Poland, and congrats to Poland on another top 12 finish in a year where I think a lot of people really weren't expecting them to get quite so far.
Yeah, it was. I think we had Poland as like a top 16, maybe fringe top 12 team. So they definitely were able to, be as successful, if not a little bit more successful than kind of anticipated. As mentioned, they lacked a bunch of the players that had made their team what it was for the last couple of years. So a really good job of them slotting in some new members and getting great performances from some returning members. But yeah, they were just overmatched against Russia at this point. Russia has looked pretty strong. Obviously, seed number 4 continued to play very well, perform very well in that match. I think nobody was really surprised. I think that was probably one of the two matches that were most expected to be most likely one-sided, and did end up going that way. But just a good showing from Russia and a solid end result from Poland.
Yeah, I think we got pretty much what we expected of Poland. They won the matches we expected them to decisively. We lost matches that we expected them to also pretty decisively. And in the end, they got themselves a top spot. So really nothing to complain about on Poland's end.
And iFlame, I'm gonna stop you there. Go change your internet network, because you are completely robotic. So
Nice.
welcome back, dorm
back.
internet. Welcome back, iFlame dorm internet. For the next couple of matches, that was Hong Kong versus Chile on that side of the losers bracket. This one was closer, 6-3, and there was actually a map that I think Chile won by 107 points, if memory serves, in this match, as well as their final point by less than 80,000. So this did end up being very, very close, but ultimately 6-3 scoreline, Chile ending up taking that one and advancing into top 8 for the second year in a row. Hong Kong in the top 12 for what is now the 7th in 8 consecutive years. 7th time in the top 12 for Hong Kong in 8 consecutive years. Now, there are a variety of finishes in there, some of them top 8, some of them top 12, and then, of course, last year in top 16. So just pretty high level of consistent team performance for Hong Kong.
Yeah, in retrospect, I wish I had predicted this a little bit better, but it did feel like Hong Kong unfortunately got a little bit fourth player just often enough for it to be the reason they lost the match. Notably, the last map on the Nomad 3, where their bottom performer got 230k. And on the Nomad one, where their bottom performer got 300k with 25 misses, like just a couple of occasions of getting brutally fourth playered for Hong Kong away from this match being, a completely different outcome, or at least like a tiebreaker or whatever. That DT4 though, 107 points, as mentioned, one of the craziest maps of the weekend for sure. That was really, really cool. And other than that, yeah, Chile is just solid. They had a little bit better backing score, and combined with the fact that as we had kind of predicted, right, you had intercamming Mathy, Suntan, Nakore all playing really well, and kind of the fill members coming in for the maps that they were needed for and also performing well. But I think you really have to give a lot of credit to Chile for building their program into what it is now, a team that can get into top 8 here a couple times out of a country that's really not that big, that just doesn't have that big of a population, and yet still has this really solid OWC roster with some really good players. And again, to shout out Nakore and Suntan especially. Everybody knows intercamming and Mathy. Fewer people, I think, if they're not paying attention a little bit more closely to the tournament scene, fewer people are going to be as familiar with Nakore and Suntan, but those two have been picking up any slack that they were asked to, and doing it in a really impressive fashion. So another just solid performance here from Chile. And Hong Kong, man, they were like that close. If they just had one better player for a couple of picks, this match goes to the tiebreaker. If they win the map that was 107 points, right? Like little tiny margins in this stage is all it came down to.
Yeah, and that is all it comes down to sometimes. I mean, I want to shout out Max Barrow as well for Hong Kong, played super well. But like you guys said, it's great to see the other players from Chile stepping up. In past years, it really has just been intercamming and Mathy, with everyone else trying to put up support. But this year, Suntan has been one of the bigger carries for Chile time and time again, putting up really solid individual performances. And then, of course, with the backing from everybody else, Chile has done a lot better and looked a lot stronger this year than I think a lot of people expected going into the tournament.
Okay, and now for the last two less close matches of the weekend. We had the resulting potential there, Russia versus Chile. Russia taking down Chile 6-2. Again, I think probably the expected result for a lot of people. Chile finishing top 8 for the second year in a row, so very solid for them. But more importantly, Russia finishing top 6 for the first time since 2019. They made it. They have not finished in the top 6 in finals weekend since before the turn of the decade. It has been 5 years since we have seen
wild.
Russia in top 6, and they are finally back. This is the semifinals curse that we've talked about, and they've finally broken through it. The roster's finally done it. So very good year for Russia, having broken that curse and gotten themselves into the top 6 as seed number 4. I don't think there's too much to say about this match, so unless you have anything quickly to say about Team Russia in particular, or the history for these, we can go on to the last not-so-close match of the weekend.
Yeah, nah, just shout out to Russia for finally silencing all these years of semifinals wall haters, and getting through. I think they were just expected to be the better team in this one, and they proved it.
Yeah, I think Russia year after year has always had the potential to get top 6. They just needed a little bit luckier of a matchup, and I think they got it this year, and they capitalized.
Nice. The last not so interesting match of the weekend was South Korea versus Germany. South Korea continue their undefeated run. They are 22-0 in map score and 4-0 in the overall match score through the OWC World Cup this year so far. As a comparison, the USA's run in 2019, they did lose 3 maps, and those were all early stage. But USA later on in the tournament, I think semifinals, finals, and grand finals did not drop a single map in 2019. So it's a little early to start making that comparison of, is this the most dominant run that we've seen? But this is one of the rare occasions where you could actually have a more dominant run. So it's cool to see, but finals next weekend will be a big test. Well, this weekend actually. Tomorrow.
This weekend, yeah. Tomorrow night. Yeah, when you see the scoreline and you see that this match was 6-0, you might think it was one-sided, but trust me, it was worse than that. Like, this was the most brutally, demonstrably one-sided affair that I think I have ever seen in this late stage of a World Cup. I mean, 1.1 million points, 500k on a map on Germany's first pick, which was a DT speed pick that you're like, South Korea's not supposed to be good at speed, right? Like, I've been saying that they're actually underrated on speed because everybody spends so much time talking about how that's something they're not good at. And then you go, 1.1 million points, 1.1 million points again, 900K. Like, this might be the single most one-sided match in context that I have ever seen. It was brutal.
Yeah, and it felt like when the match was played, Germany had put up some solid team scores, but as the weekend went on, the Sunday matches, the tiebreakers got played. A lot of teams played more maps. Germany's scores started really dropping down the rankings. A lot of their scores were at the bottom of the list, and it's great to see South Korea's consistency going into the next weekends. I think that's going to be key if they want to have a chance of beating a team like the USA. But sadly, I do expect that streak to end next week or this week. As cool as it would be to see them continue their undefeated run.
Yeah, so that ends the one-sided affairs. Of course, we can't go without mentioning one of the 3 tiebreaker matches last weekend, Azza versus Blem in the show match, where we had a 4-way disconnect for one of the teams and resulted in players dropping like flies from the one side. That was a funny clip, at least. On a more serious note, we'll start in losers bracket. We'll go through to start things off: UK versus Philippines, Canada versus China, and then of course Canada versus United Kingdom and Australia, USA. We'll go a little quickly here because I don't think we want to take too much time, but give the matches what they deserve here. As for UK Philippines, it was 6-4 in favor of the United Kingdom. The thing that was interesting in this match is UK basically did not pick speed at all. They had played, let's just take a look at the maps that were played. Nomad 1, the Freemod 1, the Hidden 3, the Nomad 3, the Freemod 3 also, the DT2, that was the only speed map that was picked. Then Nomad 4, Hard Rock 3 did also get picked, but 8,000 score difference in favor of UK, not very good. Nomad 2, and then Hard Rock 2. So the only speed maps that were picked in this matchup were DT2, Hard Rock 3, and I think that was largely on purpose. UK, especially Bubbleman, was saying that there was a lot of sandbagging going on in the first round of losers bracket in order to have less information given up versus Canada. I don't know how effective that was exactly, and how much of that was low rolling on the day of versus high rolling against Canada, but certainly some of it is definitely intentional given the picks in this match.
Yeah, I've been vocal in other places where we've been talking about this match about how I don't really care for this strategy because, like, everybody knows, like, you're in the semifinals week, like, people know what you're good at by now. Hiding picks or like hiding your strengths on picks at this stage, like, anybody who looks at a team that has a Colibet and Malteser and Rouge and Bubbleman and doesn't know that they're pretty good at speed, like, they've obviously just been completely ignorant at that point if that's the case. So I'm kind of not really sold on this whole strategy of sandbagging this match. And the fact that it went all the way to 6-4 when it probably could have been just like done in, out, on your way deal for the UK if they picked optimally, I'm kind of not sold on the whole strat, I'm sorry to say. That being said, the biggest thing for me in this match was just what more can Nathan Ram do, man? Like, he top scored all but one map for his team, and that one map was the Hard Rock 3, which is not his skill set. Like, I'm not gonna like fault him on that in that case. But every other map he was the best scorer on his team, and sometimes it was by a gigantic margin. You had gaps of like 400K from him to the second best player on Philippines team in more than one occasion. So shout outs to Nathan Ram for putting up an insane carry performance to make that match as close as it was. And yeah, I don't know. Like, UK just made this harder for themselves than they really had any need to. And I personally do not agree with that strategy. It ended up working out for them. Great. All well and good. I don't agree with it. That's fine. I can disagree with them. They can disagree with me. Whatever. No big deal. Shout outs Philippines getting this far in the tournament. Everybody expected them to take a really hard fall, losing Enri, losing Hiak. But we kind of have to remember that Nathan Ram's really, really good. Milk Teaism really good. A bunch of the members of the roster really stepped up to get them this far, and just fell a little bit short in this particular occasion because UK managed to come out and win. That Hard Rock 3, right? 8,000 points away from it being what it would have been. It was 5-4, so it would have been 5-4 in their favor instead of 5-4 down. No, it was 1 point before that. Sorry, but anyway, it was way closer than I think it was probably expected to be. So shout outs to the Philippines for this run, but UK just that little bit better and pretty solid performances at the end of the match to close it out on the Nomad 2 or on the Hard Rock 3, and then 2 points later on the Nomad or Hard Rock 3 and Hard Rock 2. There we go.
Yeah, I think you guys covered most of it. I think a lot of people expected this roster to have a really tough time this year, having lost, of course, those 2 key players. So the fact that they were able to put up a solid performance against a team as good as the UK and get as far as they did in the tournament is a really good sign for them, I think, to come in future years. We can potentially expect a lot more in them, and I think a lot of people, myself included, will potentially have little more faith in them in years to come, assuming they keep a similar roster. But yeah, if the UK did sandbag, was not a good strategy. They won the Hard Rock 3 by 8,000 points, nearly brought them to a tiebreaker and cost themselves the tournament. This is a bit of a segue into the Canada match, but when they did play this Canada match, the picks were very obvious. They both won the picks that they were expected to win very decisively. So it had almost no result on their match against Canada. But otherwise, this matchup went very much as expected.
Yeah. On to the next match in losers bracket, which was, of course, Canada versus China. So before we touch on that, I will say also, Philippines now top 12 for the second year in a row. They don't make top 6 like last year, but I think a good year for them, showing that, like iFlame said, there's more to be expected from this roster, and you can probably count on them to be a good mid-range team, especially in the early stages. It feels like they are quite strong in the earlier stages of the tournament, round of 32, round of 16, and to some extent the quarterfinals. So looking forward to future years from them. With Canada versus China, I think the exact opposite thing sort of happened. China was a team that was expected to have the worst scaling in this matchup, but Canada just really did not have the roster depth in either of their matches this weekend to keep things in their favor decisively. You look at the number of maps played for a lot of their players. It's Zudinator playing 7. It's Xylus playing 11 maps. It's Peekpone playing 6 of them. It's Nick playing 8 of them. And UK playing 7. And then Cut Paper, Dark Karate, sorry, unfortunately just not playing a lot of maps. And unfortunately for them, that core roster was not enough to make this match close. China, on the other hand, putting up a ridiculous scoreline here with the 6-5. They do finally lose in the tiebreaker because the tiebreaker was a very, very good map for Zudinator. Got 1,700 combo on that, 4 miss, 660k with hidden, which is top score by a solid 220k in the lobby. But a lot of this match was very, very back and forth in ways that I don't think Canada really would have liked. They started this match off actually 2-0 and then got breakpointed twice in a row. We're down 3-2 and then finally brought it back to 3-3. So this was not the start to the match they would have liked, and just kept being traded points from there, unfortunately, for Canada.
Yeah, this was a weird one. Canada was down the match's only match point, right? Had to win Hidden 1 to force the tiebreaker, and even then it was only by 166k. I think... So, I guess, first of all, shout outs to China, because they deserve a lot of credit for getting this far, and for the roster with several same members but also some new members, the turnover there, managing that, and getting to this match to be as close as it was, and really kind of outperforming expectations on skill sets that they historically haven't been the greatest on. But I think you got to start talking about what Canada did with their roster that led them to this point, because clearly there's some decisions being made in the roster construction for that team that don't end up working out very well. As you said, Saryi, 1 map, Dark Karate, 2 maps, Cut Paper, 2 maps after having been like the huge performer last year, comes in this year, just is like underutilized, or just they don't play maps that he's in for. I don't know. Shout out Xylus, played 22 out of 22 maps for them this weekend. That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot of freaking maps. But Canada should just be better than this. I feel like they kind of leveraged their roster in an incorrect sort of fashion. I think some of their players just might not be all there mentally. I mean, we know Ryukei's been, kind of taking a step back and is not going to be playing going forward. And it kind of showed in his performance, which is not up to the standards you need of a player of his caliber, unfortunately. But yeah, that team that roster as a whole, just like, you shouldn't expect this match to have been as close as it was. In either way, whether it's because China overperformed, Canada underperformed, kind of not what a lot of people anticipate out of this match, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. And I mean, in terms of roster construction, I'm not super convinced that Canada had better players. I mean, Ryukei, like you said, has been not playing as much. His performance has been lacking a little bit. I believe it's the same for Cut Paper, has really stepped back in terms of playtime compared to last year. Again, that showed in performance, and the scaling fall off from Canada just came 1 round earlier this year. But the notable change was Stoof and Curtis not being on the roster. But if Stoof and Curtis don't want to play OWC, those are not players that are easy to replace, right? So I think they were pretty short on options there. And the next couple of years are going to be pretty telling for Canada as some more of those players step back. We'll see if Ryukei wants to play OWC next year. I'm questioning personally whether Canada will be able to find replacements for all those players, and so we may very well see Canada step back into more of a consistent top 12 placement rather than the perennial top 6 that they have been, unless they find some new up-and-coming stars relatively quickly. In terms of the actual match itself, though, Pseudonator was and has been incredible all tournament long, easily one of the top 5 individual performers this tournament, but just didn't have the support, didn't show the consistency. China stepped up, showed a really good performance when it mattered, and they did a good job to bring it to tiebreaker, even though they couldn't close it out.
Yeah. And despite what we're saying about Canada, right, I think a lot of this is because they underperformed a bit versus China, and then ended up, of course, losing the next match versus UK. So real quick, we'll shout out, congrats China on top 12. It was very, very close. This is still a very scary team, and they actually overperformed their seeding. They were seed 13. They got top 12. And then the next thing to note is this team still top scored 5 of the maps in the pool this weekend.
Yeah.
Now, one of them was Fremod 2, which it was just them and China who played that map, so I don't know how much you count that, but even then, that's 4 other maps in the pool: the Fremod 1, the Nomad 2, the Hidden 1, and the Hidden 3. So this is still a good team, right? This is still a team that has the ability to pop off on these sorts of maps. Unfortunately, it's just not enough on some of the other picks in the pool. And I will also say, very similarly to what iFlame was saying, there's a lot of players who could play for OWC Canada who just do not want to play or cannot play for other reasons. Just scrolling through the map pooling server, Azer probably could make Team Canada. The Pro365, if he gave a shit, could probably make Team Canada.
Mario, dude.
Mario. Of course, Yip, if he wanted to, would be on Team Canada. Curtis, if he wanted to, would be on Team Canada. Stoof, if he wanted to, could probably make the team, depending on what they want to spec for, right? Weirin, one of the speed playtesters, has gotten some late stage speed ray plays, could be that Curtis replacement if he wasn't also playtesting for OWC. So there's just a lot of people that are not playing for Team Canada and doing other things. And so, yeah, and I'm playtesting for OWC, and they can't have me either. So, not that I'd make a difference. Not that I'd do anything in semifinals, but
where's Spicy when you need them, dude? Canada just needs to respec and to go into Mechanics team again, man.
Yeah,
doing this gimmick team just did not work.
Yeah, I feel like Spicy was really touted as like up and coming star player that's gonna be like the next big player for Canada, but just hasn't really panned out that way.
Yeah.
Hasn't kind of stepped up to the level of those top tier Canadian players. So
And Spicy's
maybe
not even
that
really
can
playing
still
tournaments
happen.
anymore, either.
No,
So
exactly.
that's just not going to happen.
So it
Yeah.
feels like that window is closed.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next match, of course, which was Canada UK. I will say the one big shift in this match was the UK's improvement on Nomad 1 from 2.2 million team score to 3.2 million team score. Canada also improved their team score by almost 400k. The top three in order were South Korea with the unbeatable team score of the gods, and then UK and Canada. And there's still a 400k score difference between UK and Canada. So whatever happened day 2 for UK was absolutely ridiculous. Canada also putting up God knows how many top scores as well, right? Top scoring 5 maps on the weekend. 4 of those were in the match versus UK, if memory serves. So this was actually extremely high level match played by both teams, and ended up coming down to tiebreaker, and in part that tiebreaker because of that Nomad 1 later on in the match. That was a Canada pick as pick number 7 overall, and UK taking that breakpoint could have been the difference. Now, of course, Canada also took a breakpoint right back on the DT4, so it did end up working out well for them. But imagine if Canada is able to take that Nomad 1. They avoid the tiebreaker entirely, and they go right on to the top 6 like usual. So it ended up being actually a very, very big part of the match, and that 1 million team score improvement was huge from UK for that.
Yeah, this was. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Xylas especially played a lot better in that match, really stepped up to have some support for Canada. But it came down to the tiebreaker in the end where Bubble absolutely popped off as the Zudinator. And worth pointing out that it came down to the supporting scores, really. Bubble and Zudi both popped off. They were really close in terms of score. When you look at the supporting scores, it was Schiazzo who had that best score. Everybody else pretty much had 400k, and it was Schiazzo with 560k, which really made the difference and put the UK just over the edge. I mean, they won that by 200,000 points, and so very easily could have gone the other way. But you look at the teams, I think both of these teams are right on the edge of top 6. Could have gotten either one of them could have made top 6, but I think it's fair to say they could both be, 5th, 6th best team in the tournament, and that's probably where the road ends for either one.
Well, we'll see.
We
But
will.
I mean, this was match of the week, right? I mean, I know there was the Canada China tiebreaker, but this one was just a higher level. And real quick, like, can we just talk about the fact that that DT1 score was the single best team score in the history of OWC?
Yeah,
Can we just agree to that?
Yeah.
The UK Fallen Angel score, like literally the best team score that there has ever been. It's a 3-way FC and a break on the literal last stream of the map. A 4.684 million team score on a semifinals DT1. Like,
yeah.
we thought Australia was the mechanics team. We thought the United States was the mechanics team. Nah, bro, it's actually the United Kingdom just casually doing that. And it's 99 5-act, 99 5-act, 99 3-act. Mahmoud had a couple more hundreds. I don't know what Zach would have been without the misses, but it would have been right about 99 as well. That score is outrageous, and that's to force a tiebreaker. Like, you are down 5-4, and you do that to force tiebreaker. Like, that's crazy, man. That's absolutely freaking crazy, dude.
I went through all of the scores that have been set in OWC so far this year. Normalized, this score would still be 3.9 million team score, 3,903,809 team score if DT mod multiplier were removed. So the only scores that are better than this are Korea's round of 32 no mod 1 score, where they actually 4-wayed, or USA's quarterfinals free mod 2 score, where they also 4-wayed. And I normalized both the modded scores for that map as well. So that is without mod multiplier on either of the modded FCs on that free mod 2. It is still higher. But the fact that this was in semifinals down match point, yeah, it's just a better score.
Yeah.
I have to say, I felt like the DT maps as a whole this week were potentially too easy for the teams we have left, and that's just kind of a matter of pooling to the teams we have because they're all so insanely good at DT. And I mean, We saw 4 million scores on DT1 and 2. We saw 2 near 4 million scores on DT4, some 3 million scores on DT3, and that's not normally what you'd expect to see on semifinals. And so I expect we're going to see a big jump in difficulty for next week's DT pool.
And that's like a whole conversation unto itself. And I think that's such a difficult skill set to properly balance.
It is.
When
it's fucking impossible.
Like, several of the top teams in the tournament are so good at this skill set, right? Like Australia, incredible at speed. United States, incredible at speed. United Kingdom, incredible at speed. Russia, incredible at speed. Like, out of the top 6 teams, you have all these teams that are playing like a half a star to a star harder difficulty stuff on speed than in other areas. So like, I know it's not just pooling based on star rating, but like if you bump it up enough to where those teams are adequately challenged, now you're just making it completely out of reach for a team like, you know, this, like, I don't know who else was left. Like this year's Canada not nearly so good at speed without players like Curtis and Stoof. This, you know, Hong Kong has always been a relatively poor speed team. China has gonna struggle on their remaining, you know, their last couple players. So like trying to balance that was always going to be a really big challenge, especially in semifinals. I think that's just going to be a challenge, but nonetheless, I don't want to take anything away from that UK score by saying this was like too easy or anything, because that's still a ridiculous.
Oh, not at all. Incredible.
This match was just super cool though overall. Like, damn man, I need the news post. Like, I think captures my feelings about this whenever that comes out a little bit better than I'm able to here. Because like this match was just nuts, dude. Really impressive stuff from both teams.
All right, that should take us to the very last match of the weekend, which was, of course, USA versus Australia. This one was, I think, about as expected and predictable as possible until the very end. The United States is picking Gimmick, the Australians are picking Mechanics, and they are trading their picks back and forth in mostly one-sided fashion. There were a couple of picks, however, from Australia that were fairly close, like 150k, less than 200k, 2 of those. But overall, relatively one-sided in favor of the teams that were picking them, until the very last pick from Australia, which was, of course, that Nomad 1. And unfortunately, Emmerich disconnected about a third of the way into the map or so, something like that. He had missed a couple of times already at that point, and the score difference at the end of the map without him was 844,000. So there really wasn't a world where Australia were actually winning that pick, but it still kind of sucked. It still sucks to see it end that way rather than normally.
That was really unfortunate ending.
It was. I mean, this match went exactly as expected. Not too much to say about it. US banned tapping. Australia picked tapping until they ran out of tapping, and then they had no more picks that they could win against the US. I think the disconnect, left a bit of a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. It's an unfortunate way to end the match, but ultimately was pretty inconsequential towards the outcome of the match. And I think, if Australia, not the UK, get a chance against the US, they're going to need to rely a lot on Emmerich to kind of put up some big scores on high skill cap maps if they want a chance of winning. And Emmerich had a few uncharacteristic misses in that match as well, but ultimately I don't think they mattered either. Every map was fairly, well, not every map, but most of the maps were fairly decisive one way or the other.
It's really weird to me talking about Emmerich in this match, because it feels like he just it feels like he was just inconsequential. Like, you could just put in okay, no, hear me out, right?
Okay.
So like he, like, when I say it feels like, I'm saying that in the sense that he was like FCing stuff and he's setting good scores, but it's like, it just felt like none of those points were ever going to matter anyway, right? Like, he wasn't setting insane scores on USA picks to almost get break points or anything out of them, right? Like, he had like not a super great score on the Nomad 5. He had a 614k to top score his team on the Hard Rock 2, but the United States had literally 4 scores better than that, so it was completely irrelevant. Like, he set the worst score in the lobby by 140K on the DT2. He set the best score on his team on Nomad 3, but it didn't matter because they lost it by 600K anyway. So, like, what I'm saying is, like, yes, he performed really well in their picks, and that's great, but he wasn't like a difference maker in the sense of making this match go any way other than exactly how everyone anticipated that it would go.
Yeah, I think that's just a really high bar to overcome, though. And in some ways, you can maybe say, but you expect Emmerich to overcome that bar. But that can't be every match. And some of these maps also from the USA, like, it just wouldn't have mattered even if he were FCing everything, right? Like, Nomad 1, even if he gets 800K at the end of it, they still lose. The Nomad 3, even if he FCs, they lose. Because guess what? He already got 800K, and they lost by nearly 700K, like over 600K. Nomad 4, even if he FCs, they maybe win that? Maybe. But he would have to have over 984K, which is pretty much impossible on a map where you get that kind of accuracy. If he FC'd the Nomad 5, they maybe win that one. They might win that one if he FCs, because Secret Box also got a really good score. But point is, like, most of these maps, even if he got the full combo, it just wouldn't have mattered because the rest of the team for Australia is just getting gapped by USA.
And that's happened last year in their match in their third place match, right? Like,
I think so.
They just just couldn't keep up with the supporting combo.
Yeah.
This is not strictly speaking relevant to that. I just have a question for the crowd. Literally anyone who has any idea. Why did USA have Kama in for Nomad 1 instead of Pez? Somebody out there has to know the answer to this.
Yeah, single tap map. I don't know.
Yeah, we may never know.
We may never know.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, worked out, but yeah.
Yeah, it worked out. I don't know. Match one it's so funny how, like, it was 6-4 and, like, it's just like this is exactly how everyone anticipated this match to go. There were literally there was like one pick that actually mattered. The last Australian pick, after they went through all the tapping maps, was always going to be the only pick in the match that actually mattered because there was such a low chance that either team would have really an inroad into getting a break point. And there you go.
Yep, pretty much.
All right. Well, that just about wraps things up. It was a pretty historic weekend regardless. The weekend was very cool for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest thing for me was just so much history this weekend. I'll just repeat my tweet. I tweeted this out like 5 days ago. Canada's out before top 6 for the first time since 2017. That is a 6-year streak broken. Russia is in top 6 for the first time since 2019. It's been 4 years. UK is in top 6 again for the first time since 2021. USA is in winners finals for the first time since 2021. We have not seen USA in winners finals guaranteed top 3 since 2021. Hong Kong, of course, back in top 12 for the 7th time in 8 years. The Philippines are top 12 for the 2nd time ever. Chile's in top 8 for the 2nd time ever that anyone cares about. They were also top 8 in OWC1, but no one cares. China was top 12 for the 2nd time in a row, and Poland was top 12 for the 4th year in a row. So this was a year of streaks broken and renewed in semifinals. It was a fun weekend. And that'll do it for the recap. We're going to move on to predictions, and we're going to have on a couple of special guests once again. Please welcome in Doomsday and Fiery Rage for the predictions portion of the stream. Good morning. Well, good evening.
Good afternoon.
Morning. Or afternoon. Or evening.
I'm lounging so hard right now. It's unreal.
Just lean back, man.
Leaned back.
Nah, my chair doesn't lean back right now.
So at least stay in shot.
Wait. There we go.
Same motion. All right. We're going to get into the first match of finals, which is Germany versus the United Kingdom. This is a match between a team that has been top 4, really, for, God, how many years in a row now?
20.
Like,
I did this prep, and I don't remember what the number was.
We did.
I've looked at this multiple times.
Like 9-10 years in a row.
Yeah, let me go back.
It goes back
last
to
year's
2014, I think. Yeah.
And before that they had single elim, so it was a different format.
Yeah, so they've been top 4 every year
Top
since
4,
2018.
yeah.
Top
six
6 every year since 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, bit of an interesting match there. And then of course UK also had a really good streak of top 4 performances from 2016 to 2019, but haven't seen them in top 6 since 2021. So I'll start for this one. Actually, I had a bit of an interesting prediction. And I think this is actually UK. I think this is the United Kingdom winning this match, and I think it's pretty solidly in their favor. Like, I think I have 7-3 or 7-4 in the pick'ems. And my biggest reason for that is I think UK are the better team on the basically most things besides hidden. They're at this stage a better DT team. They do lose on things like aim and normal alt maps, not the swing alt in Nomad that we had last week, but normal alt maps. They definitely lose on some of the more aim control-y hard rocks as well. And some of the hiddens, but the big thing is the speed pool and the ability to contest on almost every Nomad, including some of the aim picks in Nomad. And the big thing is I think the speed picks are safer for the UK than the non-speed picks are for Germany.
That's usually how it goes though, right?
Yeah, usually that is how it goes. But even aside from that, it felt like from last week especially that Germany was having trouble scaling their other members aside from the big carry players into semifinals, whereas UK didn't have as much trouble with that last week. So I think this is probably a pretty solid matchup for the UK. There is a good amount of the speedier picks here. There are some solid aim picks as well for UK. And even with some of the, leaning into hard rock aim control that Germany has liked to do, this pool isn't really good for that. It's got a awkward aim hard rock 1, sure, that's something there, but hard rock 2, hard rock 3 are both flow aim streams. So, not the best pool for them either. Aaron.
So, yeah, this is a really interesting matchup, and I think the big thing to me is which iteration of these two teams do we get in this match? Last weekend, Germany had really, I think, just kind of a not great approach to that match against South Korea. From what I've heard from a member of their team and like scuttlebutt around the scene is like, they weren't approaching that as a match that they could win because it's Germany against this juggernaut in South Korea, right? And they went out and got 6-0'd. All 6 maps that they played were also played by the United Kingdom. United Kingdom won all 6 of them. And we saw like the level that United Kingdom took, especially in that second match against Canada, was really, really impressive. You go back to quarterfinals, and all of a sudden Germany won all 3 maps in common over the United Kingdom there. So it's like, which Germany is going to show up and which United Kingdom is going to show up? And honestly, to me, it feels like that 6-0 is going to be pretty hard to come back from. Germany is like coming off of a historic loss at a level that is just rarely before seen. So they've got a lot of work to do in prep for this match. They got to really reset, I think, if they want to put forth like their absolute best effort. Meanwhile, United Kingdom, coming off of a near tiebreaker win and then a tiebreaker win, going to be a really good place. A lot of momentum coming into this, I think, feeling like they can beat just about anybody with maybe like 1 or 2 exceptions in the entire tournament. And it seems like between rounds, as we've gotten into the semifinals and onward, United Kingdom has kind of figured something out about what they need to do to get the best performance out of their team. And we've really yet to see if that's going to be the case for Germany. And so as difficult as this is, I think Germany, based on the pool United Kingdom, based on the pool and based on, kind of just what we saw last weekend, I think United Kingdom's in a good spot to win this match. I think it comes down pretty close. I don't think it's quite as one-sided as you feel, Dio, because I do think that Germany is going to be maybe a little better at more things than we've seen out of them, especially last week. But I do think this is right at the moment. I think it's United Kingdom favored by a small margin, something like a 7-5 for United Kingdom would absolutely not surprise me. Now, if Germany shows up with Kriller and Whitecap performing, like we've seen them in the past, there's definitely a route for Germany to win this. But as of right now, United Kingdom seems like they're playing the better OWC, and a lot of times that can matter.
It certainly can, and I'm going to have to keep the train going and take the UK here. for all the same reasons you guys mentioned. I won't
Wow.
rehash the pool, but I don't think this one is necessarily as close as a lot of people think. You look at the head-to-head from last week, 0-6 for Germany. I mean, individual performances obviously aren't the end-all, be-all, but Kriller can match Bubble, and then beyond that, the UK had 6 players in the top 50. Germany only had 1 other player in the top 50, that being Whitecat at 41. So yes, while we have seen Kriller and Whitecat pop off in the past, they're going to be relying a lot on Kriller. I think we haven't seen Whitecat put up the level of carry performance that they really need this match, probably since 2021. And the support just feels stronger from UK, at least this time around. Germany potentially having some issues with scaling. And so while I do think Germany can win if we see some otherworldly performances from Kriller and Whitecat, I think UK should be the favorites in this one by a decent margin. I'm going to give it to them 7-4.
I'm never going to underestimate Germany at any point. I refuse to do it. But I agree. I feel like this comes down to confidence, really, between the two teams. And especially on the side of UK, I feel like UK is a team that really needs to have that belief to, play at their best, play at their consistent best. And at the moment, I don't think they can top what they did last weekend in terms of like confidence building. These guys are on cloud 9, and I think they're going to win this as well. But I don't think it's going to be particularly one-sided. I back Germany to really show up in this game, but I still back the UK to win anyway. I'm predicting like a 7-5, a proper tussle. I think it comes down to whether, like the likes of Kriller and Whitecat, because they're in for pretty much everything, they need to show up. And on the finals pool, this is where they really need to show up. I'll back them to do it, but I still think UK win it. Go on, Friday.
I just say straight up 7-2 UK.
Whoa.
Okay.
Oh,
Whoa.
If Whitecat performs the way he did in the matchup that they had against South Korea, if he performs that exact same way, I don't think Germany stands a chance. I'm going to be entirely honest. The way UK was playing on a lot of those speed-oriented picks, I mean, you have like 5 picks in the finals pool already that are pretty much speed-oriented. You got Nomad 5, Hard Rock 3, I guess to some extent can kind of be considered that, although it's a lot more stamina, flow aim-oriented, which even then I think UK might be better at. DT1, DT2, DT3, all those are speed. I just think the UK has more picks here, and they have a more well-rounded team roster overall.
Well, if we're wrong, this is going to be a very funny screenshot. But
Yes,
if Whitecat shows up, then I think things will get interesting. If he doesn't, though, if he plays like he has been throughout the entire tournament, which is kind of at a lower level than I think most people expect him to be, I don't think this is going to be close.
Good.
I was just gonna say, it's all down to confidence. I think after that last one, I think against South Korea, it was a case of Germany did not believe. They just did not believe at all. I think that showed in the scores they put out. I don't think that's going to happen this week. Germany and UK, it's a massive rivalry. There's quite a few people in Germany that played a few of those games. They're going to show up for this one. So, I mean, I reckon it's going to be
I hope so.
myself.
I hope so. I want to see a close match. I want to see this be entertaining because I know what both of these teams are capable of at their peak. I've played against both of these teams at their peak. I would know. It's so much better when these teams are at their peak, playing their absolute best, and they have the closest match possible. I want to see that. I just, with how things have been going this tournament, I haven't seen that.
Well,
yeah. Doomsday said what I was kind of thinking, like, too. It's just, I don't know, but I wanted to say, like, I'm excited for the screenshots of everybody saying, oh my god, you guys didn't believe in Germany, when we're literally all saying, like, I think this has the potential to be an incredibly close match. Like, there's no nuance allowed. I think this is definitely a match that can end up being very close. It's just, like, the margins, like we said earlier, the margins are just really, really narrow.
Listen, this is not a place for nuance. We clearly have no faith in Germany.
Clearly,
And,
5 of us predicting UK means we all predict 7-0 UK, and there's no points, no chance that Germany wins this, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, no nuance allowed. All right, that'll do it for this one, and we will go on to our second match.
Always good.
Second match of the weekend, which is Australia versus Russia. Fiery Ridge, do you want to start us off for this one?
Throwing me the bone already. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I honestly, Australia obviously showed up for anything that involves speed last week. Russia did as well, but to a slightly lesser extent. So I would give Australia the speed paper on paper the speed advantage. I think they would win probably most of the speed picks. So that's a solid 4 points in the pool right there, assuming none of them are banned out, which I don't necessarily think Russia would. Maybe ban DT1 at best or DT2, but outside of that, I'm not entirely sure. If Emrek plays up to his level, I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with Whitecat once again. Like, Emrek, we know what he's capable of. We've seen him perform and pop off in these types of things. So if he performs up to that level, then I don't think Australia is going to have that much of a hard time. I think probably 7-4 Australia, realistically speaking. The thing is, if Emrek doesn't perform well, he's kind of their main player on a lot of the maps outside of speed alongside box. And if either one of them are having an off day, then a lot of the pool becomes a lot more contestable for Russia. And I think it can go immediately the other way on pretty much any of those maps.
So Australia favored, but winnable for Russia?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, realistically speaking, 7-4 Australia, Russia do have a very good chance, though.
I
All
can't wait to see the speed fight on this. Oh, dude, I cannot wait to see that. That said, though, I do feel like this is one of those matchups where strengths match up pretty closely, and Australia just kind of edged them on quite a lot of them. I can see Russia maybe stealing a speed pick here and there, but I reckon it's going to be Australia edging a lot of those picks pretty closely. I'd be curious to see how like a control head-to-head goes between these two, because some of those control-y players on Team Australia, like JGALF, Paula, haven't played a lot. I wonder if Russia has the edge on like the gimmick in this matchup. But other than that, I think Australia take it. I'm thinking like 7-2, 7-3. But should be some interesting fights on some of that speed of things. Well, I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems just like a bad stylistic matchup for Russia. Both teams obviously very good at speed, but if you can't rely on the speed picks to win, it's going to be very difficult to find points. I don't necessarily think they have a super clear edge anywhere else against Australia. And while they can put up some points, I think overlapping strengths tends to be much worse for the slightly weaker team, should favor Australia pretty heavily. And I have a hard time seeing Russia taking this one, especially after Australia put up a good showing last week on the speed map specifically, but they had other good scores on things like the Nomad 3, Nomad 2, where they had the third best scores overall. They had a couple shakier scores, but overall they played solidly, and I think they should take this one, I'll say 7-3.
This is like an interesting matchup, and it feels like we're talking about speed a lot, and it's like that's the only thing that matters anymore. Like chat's talking about too. Like speed is literally the only that's half of every matchup, if not more, is just which team is better at speed, because there's like 5 or 6 tapping maps in these pools, and it's like whoever wins those has a bunch of free points. But this match again for Australia, Russia is a lot like Australia versus the United States, except that Russia is not as good at gimmick as the United States was, right? Like it's Australia picking speed probably because they're just the overwhelming best speed team in the tournament, with the maybe exception apparently after last week of the United Kingdom. Again, despite Russia being good at speed, Australia is just like better at it. But Russia is not at the level of the United States on the gimmick map, so they don't have like the turnaround of all these free picks of their own the way that the United States did. I think Russia needs to perform at a way higher percentage of their theoretical maximum than does Australia to win this match, right? Because like Australia's floor has been proven to just be really, really high. And I think their ceiling is also higher. So it's, kind of here versus here, right? Russia will get points, especially if they actually have Markram for this match, who's been missing for a couple. I think that'll help them out a lot because he can fill in for like hidden and gimmicky stuff. Which will be very useful when you've got, other players on the roster. You've got Chicone, you've got Scroll, you've got Welter. Like, you've got players who will be super strong on picks that Australia is not as good at. But sooner or later, those picks will run out. And Australia just has the higher skill cap overall. They'll win the speed stuff. They'll win a break point somewhere, maybe 2, and it'll be like 7 for Australia. I don't really know how Russia can actually win 7 entire maps in this matchup is the problem. I can see them winning 3 to 5. I can't see them winning 7.
Yeah, the only way I can see Russia winning 7 maps in this matchup is if Australia, as kind of a full team, are having a bad day on speed, because it's not just MREC, it's not just a Secret Box, it's MREC, Secret Box, Sio, AKNZX, Zintex. Like, there's a good amount of people who can all play this kind of stuff for Australia. So even if one of them is having an off day, there's usually someone to fill in. And yes, Russia has the same kind of thing going on. They do have a lot of very good speed players who can all play this kind of stuff. But again, their ceiling is lower than Australia's. If you look at the DT maps last week, Russia did top score DT2, but that is one of the 3 DTs where they have head-to-heads where either of Russia's scores are higher than Australia's. And that's only one of their 2 scores on DT2 that's better than Australia's run. So Australia is consistently ahead of both, if not at least one of, Russia's scores on a map. The same goes in a lot of other rounds, except for qualifiers, actually, where Russia has more consistent high scores, but Australia's ceiling is higher. If it happens, like in qualifiers, that Australia is having bad runs on these maps, this match could flip to Russia. But the chances of that, I think, given what we've seen in bracket stage so far, are pretty low. So I'm also going to have to go Australia. I think I have 7-3 in the pick'ems. It's a pretty well Australia favored matchup because, like people have talked about before, Russia would want to pick outside of speed in this matchup. And while they are good on those, they're also not as good as Australia on those for the most part. Australia is the better hidden team. They're generally the better hard rock team. They generally have pretty solid players for stuff like Alt Nomad or Nomad Aim or Nomad Tech. And so, unfortunately, it's just a lot of those points are breakpointable for Australia in this matchup, and it feels like they should have a pretty big on-paper advantage. So that'll do it for the second match in Losers Bracket. We're going to go on to the third match of the weekend, which, of course, is the projected winner of this match versus the projected winner of the last match. That'll be Australia versus the United Kingdom. Doomsday, why don't you start us off for this one?
Oh, you gotta do it to me, Dio.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay, all right. So this, of course, is a rematch from earlier on in the tournament. A matchup that was highly built up as super spooky speed teams going at it, and then Australia completely smoked them on speed and won pretty handily. It's a much different pool this time around, but I think Australia's still 7-4. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, okay?
It's a betrayal.
Do it. Don't pick speed into them. Let them pick it. Be creative. Be brave with gimmick. The gimmick players have not played a lot. Test them, because you can steal picks on those. You can steal speed picks. I mean, come on. Fallen Angel 4.6 million. You can steal speed picks. You can steal aim picks. But it's going to be a tough head-to-head, and on like 8-star pools, you're looking at some serious skill cap on Australia. Even for some of the skill cappy players on UK, that head-to-head seems pretty scary to me on aim. It's going to take some brave picking from the UK. Again, they've got confidence, but Australia have some scary skill cap. I rate them on this pool. I reckon it is going to be Australia taking that last top 3 spot, I suppose. But we'll see how it plays out. Who knows? Never say never.
All right, let's go to iFlame.
Well, I don't have all that much to say for this one. Just take what I said for the prediction against Russia, copy paste it, and substitute UK. I think it's a very similar matchup. They're going to lose for all the same reasons. And to be quite honest, I'm not actually convinced that the UK are a better team than Russia. So I'd probably give them even less points instead of 7-3. I think I'll give it to them 7-2 in favor of Australia this time around. Yeah, nothing more to be said. I think there was a clear top 3 when we came into this tournament. I don't think that's changed in any way. And I think coming out of this weekend, we'll still have a pretty clear top 3.
Fiery, your turn.
7-6 UK. I saw 2018 Bubble Man in that
Yeah.
time. I am scared to death. I know for a fact he's going to show up in finals week. I am. Give me 2018 again. Give me 2018 again. I want to see that.
Let's go, Fiery. Let's go.
All right, Aaron.
This is actually so. Like, I kind of get where Fiery's coming from on this one. On the low key, like. Bubbleman looked like classic Bubbleman again last weekend, and everyone in the tournament who's been around for more than like 2 years knows how goddamn fucking scary that shit is. That dude will put teams on his back and refuse to lose matches. We saw that so many times where Bubbleman just shows up and is the ultimate X factor. Like before the days of Malashevsky and before the days of, you know, even Emrek in tournaments, right? Like it was Bubbleman who was Bubbleman versus Vaxay in the 1v1s and Bubbleman in the team tournaments. Like he was the big scary final boss of so many tournaments where he just shows up in finals, grand finals, and he beats you by himself and he doesn't care what it takes. So like I really do get where Fiery is coming from there. UK, like, the avenue kind of makes sense here in a way, right? UK, like, they steal a speed point on something because somebody breaks, and they win, like, some aim picks, they win some gimmick picks because they're willing to go out and try stuff that they know Australia isn't going to be super strong at. Like, the route kind of makes sense for Bubbleman and his team, for the United Kingdom, to make this a more interesting match than I think people would likely anticipate it to be. They're really good at speed. They're very good at aim. They will have players for a lot of different things. So I get where the universe where they can contest this match comes from. The problem is, I think the percentages are so low. I think UK has to do so well in this match, much like Russia, as we were talking about before. The avenue is such a narrow one that they have to walk such a fine line if they want to contest this match, and I don't think that they can quite make it. I do think that Australia wins this. They are the better speed team, strictly speaking, even with what UK has shown us. We've seen them in a literal head-to-head. The map pool has only gotten harder. And I do think Australia overall, top to bottom, has what it takes to win this match. I think Australia wins, but I do see a world where this is a really close match. And contrary to what I think a lot of people will be predicting, a lot of like 7-2, 7-1, I think this is like 7-5. I think this is a lot closer than people expect it to be.
Here's how the UK can still win. Here's how
I like
exactly.
that.
He gets it.
I like that.
Man.
Here's how UK can still win. They pick all the aim maps. They pick
Right.
Nomad 1, they pick Hard Rock 1, they
Yep.
pick Free Mod 1. They let Australia pick the DT 1. They double ban Hidden because Australia, I'm just going to double check this, but you go back to qualifiers, you go back to round of 32. Okay, neither team played Hidden in round of 32. I'm just going to double check the full bracket stage. I don't think Australia
They just
has
haven't been
any
playing
head-to-head losses on Hidden against the UK, which just double ban Hidden at that point. Now, Australia doesn't really like picking Hidden, but I feel like in this matchup, UK, you can steal breakpoints on speed. You ain't stealing shit on the Hidden pool. So just ban it. And then at that point, you have breakpointable maps in DT1, DT4. Probably less breakpointable on Nomad 5, DT2, DT3, but still maybe doable. And then you have Nomad 1, Hard Rock 1, Free Mod 1, and you still have solid picks on stuff like the Hard Rock 2, the Free Mod 2, and the Free Mod 3. That's 6 maps! That's 6 picks for UK. And if they get any breakpoints on any of the speed maps, that's it. So I'll say 7-5 UK. They get 1 breakpoint on speed, and they're able to win their picks on the aim and the Hard Rock pools. And that is how they end up winning this match.
The real way they end up winning is more power outages.
Oh my
Rex
god.
power goes down for the entire match.
That would be probably the worst possible way to win this, but I mean, it's in the realm of possibility. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. This is one of those matches also where I feel like I want to see how both of their first matches go, because both of these teams are going to be the team picking Speed in the first round of losers bracket, and whichever of them looks better on this round's Speed maps is going to have a pretty solid advantage going into it. That said, I think UK has more picks if the Speed is good for Australia than Australia has if the Speed is good for UK. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Australia will still be the team favored on Speed, but if it so happens that the UK has better scores on the Speed maps against Germany than Australia has against Russia, suddenly Australia's strategy is just gone, basically gone. So they need to be that better team, whereas UK, I think, has more options, and that's why I give them this. Honestly, I think they just have more options in this match.
Also, I hope Emmerich doesn't like giga over practice again, because I'm pretty sure he just giga over practiced last weekend, and like there aren't that many players. Like if you, I remember somebody was talking about like he had what was it, like 20 something practice tips of the Nomad 5 last week, and then he started playing with DC. Like, don't over practice. There's been one person in the history of OSU that I've seen that could over practice to that degree, and it was Idke, and that dude had the weirdest approach to tournament play ever. And like it worked for him, and I've never seen it work for anyone else. So please don't do that.
God, if there's one map you're gonna make like 20 practice diffs of, it was that No Mod 5.
It was. That's fair. Yeah.
It's like the ultimate mind block map.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and get into the last match of the weekend, and I think the one everyone's waiting to see, the winners finals, South Korea versus the United States. This is the match of the weekend. This is the match of the tournament that everybody has been waiting for since grand finals last year, where we saw United States take us to bracket reset and then also win bracket reset in tiebreaker against South Korea. These two teams have been the only two teams close to winning the tournament for the last several years in a row. Counting this one, this will be now 3 years in a row where South Korea was really the only viable challenger to the United States.
Wasn't 2021 Germany?
2021 was Germany. 2022, 2023,
Germany.
2024 would be 3 years.
2020 was the one that went grand finals tiebreaker, I think, right?
Yes.
It went Uparts.
Yeah.
And then 2021 USA won
7-5.
7-5, 7-4.
Yeah. 7-5.
It was 7-5. I remember because Arison went in on the last
DT2.
pick.
DT2.
Yeah.
He popped off on that one.
Yep.
I remember that one distinctly.
Yeah. Does anyone want to start on this match? Because I don't know about this one. Anybody want to start on this one?
I am picking the United States.
All
I will
right.
gladly go first.
Who would have
I
seen
am
that?
picking the United States, and I do not care. And I am just willing to take this one first head on. They are the United States. I don't care. I literally just don't care about anything. It's the United States. They are going to come into this match as prepped and as ready and like just as wanting to win. The desire to win this match will be at an all-time high. The United States is like actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the United States is getting underrated at this point in the tournament. With like how the discussion around OWC has gone since South Korea's roster was announced, the United States is at the point of being underrated, and that's why I'm picking them. Like, they're playing super well. They're going to have maybe a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And wait, do we need to remember that they are the fucking 6-time defending champion? Like, if any team knows how to win matches when it matters, it's the United fucking States. I literally, like, they're better at speed. They're just as good at like tech and stuff. Yeah, they'll maybe get outclassed on reading. Yeah, they probably get outclassed on aim. But I think the United States will figure out a way to ban appropriately and pick appropriately, and they'll end up winning this match by literally the margin of either one breakpoint or tiebreaker. It'll be 7-5 or 7-6, but the United States is going to get it done. They're back in the winners final. They're not going to give up that opportunity.
You know what I want to say to that, T1G?
Yo.
I agree completely.
Yo! Let's go!
I agree completely. And it pains me to say it because South Korea have looked unstoppable and they've been crazy good. And they have kind of built that aura that I guess USA have had for years. But here's the thing. USA know how to win OWC matches, man. They are the Real Madrid of OWC. They can turn up and like play like, well, not quite at that extreme, but you know, Real Madrid can just turn up, be unfancied, and just win anyway. and I feel the same way with the US. They just know how to win these matches. South Korea aren't. I mean, I'm sure they will be confident going into this with the way they've played, but I can't see them looking at this as a clear-cut victory at all. And I can see them being put under pressure. And like you mentioned, the USA are going to be so hungry to make a statement in this matchup with all the chatter about SK going into it. In terms of the head-to-heads, I think they match up pretty well. SK do outclass them on control and that. But I feel like on a lot of skill sets, it's pretty close. And I just feel like the USA are going to have that streetwise ability when it gets real close and you start approaching those last few maps, man. I have a feeling that, yeah, it's going to be US winning it, I think. But 7-5, nothing in it.
It's close.
I can't believe what I'm listening to here. I am taking SK, and come on, TMG. What's this narrative that the US is underrated? Most people predicted them to beat Australia. I think almost everyone agreed this match will at least be close against the first seed South Korean team. I don't know if we could say that's underrated, but regardless, look, South Korea, they nearly beat the US last year in grand finals. Very difficult pool. And that was before they added Hyok, who was one of the best performers last tournament. Fragrance of Page and Flying Dune have both stepped up massively. And South Korea, again, undefeated so far in this tournament. They have the consistency. They've not had the same kind of poor performances on just about any map in the pool. And I think they're going to bring it this year. I do think it'll be very close. I think it's going to be tiebreaker. But I do think a worst HR player has the highest skill cap of any player in this lobby, especially on the control. I think it'll be enough to put them over the edge. I'm going to say tiebreaker. They'll win it by 200,000 points because the worst HR player will pop off and get like 700k.
Dude, that is such a farm tiebreaker. It really is. Minus the ending.
Streams at the end, though, right? Doesn't it have like that one like crazy stream in like the 2/3 or whatever, 3/4?
Yeah.
I think so,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't remember if there's multiple of those though. If it's only one, it's not that bad.
All right. I guess I'll go next. Here's my prediction, which is I think this is a match where both of these teams are going to get breakpoints against each other. Where there are really only two speed maps that South Korea cannot contest in this pool, which are Nomad 5 and DT3. I think they will ban those, leave up the DT1, DT2, DT4, and be able to contest on those. Because just looking at what happened last week, even on the DT2, this was the only true speed map where we had a head-to-head comparison, and South Korea actually had a better team score by like 240k. It's not much, but that gets the job done. USA is kicking their ass on DT1 with 1 million team score difference, so I don't think they're going to win the DT1, but nobody's expecting them to win that, right? The other thing here is that there are so many maps where you have actually very, very close scores between these two, and a lot of this where some of these are just straight up toss-ups as well. But I think there's a little bit more of the pool that I like for South Korea than for the United States. I'm just going to count real quick. Yeah, I think there's just more of the pool that's good for South Korea than for the United States. And I think because of that, I'm giving it 7-5. For South Korea. I think this is, again, like one breakpoint or tiebreaker, and that's it. And I would be surprised at any other outcome in this match. If this is one-sided at all, I am completely surprised. If USA wins, I am also not surprised because they're the United States, and they might, as others have said, as Dooms and T1G have said, they might just show up and decide to win and just be better. Because United States scaling in grand finals and finals weekend is scary as hell, and this is the hardest finals pool that OWC has ever seen. So USA scaling is going to be a factor, but I think South Korea, again, is the one team that can actually keep up with them. And I think more of this pool is good for South Korea than for the United States. This is the opposite of Australia versus USA last week. If you are the United States, you are the team picking speed. You are the team trying to get breakpoints on the control picks. Some of those breakpoints are doable, and I think there are trap picks for South Korea in this pool. But I think enough of it is good for them that they should have a lot of solid picks, and United States may at one point or another struggle to find maybe a last pick in this pool. So I give it to South Korea, like 7-5 or tiebreaker. Actually, 7-5. I think if it goes tiebreaker, United States wins. I think USA wins on this tiebreaker. So I'll just say 7-5 South Korea.
Despite losing on a tech tiebreaker to South Korea 2 years ago.
This is a mechanics tiebreaker. This is not a tech tiebreaker.
It's like mech tech.
It's like mech tech, but the mech is capitalized and the tech is like font size 4. It's there. It's there, but it's not as prominent. That's a lot of combo in the streams and speed.
200 BPM though, I don't think is that much in it. The ending 220, yeah, I think there's a discrepancy there, but
yeah,
I don't think there's that much in like the first half, first 2/3 even. But I see what you mean.
Yeah. All right, Fiery.
Tiebreaker.
Tell us why USA is winning.
See, I have a full draft here. I have
good.
I have like exactly what I think they're probably gonna pick, what maps are toss up, what they're gonna ban.
Same.
Like you
Any
said,
SK players take notes?
Yeah, do everything don't do anything I say here. Nomad 5 DT3 South Korea bans. I don't think that's not
very obvious.
There's no other option for them to really ban.
Yeah.
USA, I'm thinking Hidden 2, Nomad 1, quite frankly. Nomad 1 just because SK had an absolutely insane team score last week. And also, generally speaking, USA doesn't like playing Nomad 1 to begin with.
I don't think USA has ever liked Nomad 1.
Yeah, no, in any OWC, I think since like 2019, I don't think any team I've been on or that we've seen like in 2022 and even in 2024, I don't think they've ever wanted to play Nomad 1. So I think, realistically speaking, those are probably going to be the 4 bans they're saying. What I have, SK most likely winning Nomad 2, Alt, Hidden 1, tech-oriented Hidden, Hidden 3, also kind of tech-oriented Hidden to some regard, and Free Mod 2. USA winning pretty much all the mechanics picks. Hard Rock 3, DT1, DT2, at Free Mod 4 are the ones I had them there. So 4-4 if we count those. And the rest of them are toss-ups. Nomad 3, Nomad 4, Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 2, DT4, Free Mod 1, Free Mod 3, all those are toss-ups. I really don't know which way either of those maps are going to go. And that's, I think, the main problem in trying to predict an outcome for this. I think, personally, South Korea is favored on tiebreaker. So if we do end up seeing tiebreaker, 7-6 South Korea, I can see 7-4, 7-5 USA, though. I think the most likely outcome out of everything, though, just based on how the teams have been performing, 7-5 South Korea.
Wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And that is it. And I have to agree. I have some similar notes, Fiery. Pretty similar notes. I disagree on the amount of toss-ups, but similar notes for the obvious picks. That's for sure.
Man, I thought it was going to be me and Fiery picking USA and the other 3 picking South Korea. I did not have it going this way.
I'm also using this technically as motivation because I want to see the USA stomp them.
Extra motivation. Let's go.
Prove me wrong. It's the same thing. Instead of man proving me right with my 7-6 prediction, prove me wrong. I want to see you stomp them 7-0.
Yeah, let's do it, bro.
And pretty sure Miles is taking South Korea as well, clearly.
Oh, yeah. No, Miles has South Korea winning this also. So make that 4-2. All right. That'll be it for us,
Oh, God.
I've been pinged.
Go away, Miles.
Why would you say that, Fiery?
Miles comes in here and is just like, you can't be American. You can't do that.
Get him out of here.
I'm sorry.
That's anti-USA propaganda.
All right, he's gone. He's gone.
Vote kick.
I muted him anyway, but
all right, and that'll do it for us. That is it. Winners finals is again at 3 UTC December 1st this Sunday. The other matches, of course, are earlier in the weekend. If you go back to our first match of losers bracket, that is 14 UTC, Germany versus United Kingdom on Saturday the 30th. Russia versus Germany a little earlier than that, 12 UTC on Saturday the 30th. And then last matchup, that potential Australia versus UK that we think is probably going to happen, will be 12:30 UTC. I believe the other potential is 15 UTC, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So if Russia does end up winning versus Australia, that potential would be at 15 UTC. But as long as Australia wins, this will be at 12:30 UTC. And then, of course, the winners finals at 3 UTC on Sunday. So be there, be square. There's only 4 matches this weekend. Make some time. Be there for the OS World Cup. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to Doomsday and Fiery for coming on for the predictions, T1G and iFlame for both the predictions and the recap. And we will see you all back here next week for another round of Full Circle.